And today on a very special Showbiz India, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Narasimhan, who is a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist in Los Angeles. She has had numerous media appearances, including CNN, CNN International, The E! Show, Fox News, and many more. Dr. Narasimhan also received the Hindi Ratan Award for Jewel of India Award for her contributions to medicine and media. She's also an asylum evaluator for Physicians for Human Rights and involved in research looking into using digital therapeutics and artificial intelligence to improve early detections and interventions. It is such a pleasure to welcome you on Showbiz India. It's great to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, Dr. Narasimhan, right now is a very confusing time for all of us, especially adolescents and children. It's a new normal for them, with homeschooling, social distancing, and not being able to meet their friends. So what advice would you give to parents about how much knowledge should they share with them, especially younger children, about COVID-19 without scaring them?
Yes, that's a great question. So a lot of this depends on the age of the child and where they are developmentally. For really young children, they may not understand a lot of the more complicated concepts of a pandemic. Even adults, we don't totally understand at all, and it's very complex. So for a young child, you want to use words that they'll understand, that they will be able to comprehend and know what to do with. For example, instead of saying coronavirus, you can talk about how it's like a germ, and we don't want germs to be spread to each other because other people can get sick. So by giving them kind of instructions on how to handle themselves, how to practice physical distancing and hand washing and so forth, that allows them to understand at their developmental age. As they get older, this conversation can be a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more developmentally appropriate for the older child who may understand things on a little more larger scale, such as in the classroom or in the neighborhood, and how we have to protect ourselves and protect those around us. And you can kind of use this as sort of like working as a team. We all work together as a team so that everybody stays safe and healthy. And for adolescents, they can understand even more. So you can have more adult conversations with them about what this means, but keep in mind they are still children, so you don't want to flood them with a lot of fear and anxiety to the point that it affects their own functioning.
What are the signs that parents should pay attention to?
If a child is experiencing a lot of intrusive thoughts about getting sick, about their family members getting sick, about their friends getting sick, that can be overwhelming. And if this happens continuously and constantly, that may be a sign that they're under a lot of stress. Sometimes we see difficulties with sleep. They may have nightmares. They may engage in some kind of obsessive compulsive behaviors themselves. And they may have a lot of separation anxiety, like they literally can't be away from their parent because they're so flooded with anxiety. And if you're seeing signs like this and symptoms like this, it's a good idea to seek some professional help from a mental health professional.
Absolutely. But in the time being, what can parents do for immediately to calm them down and to hopefully comfort them?
One of the challenges during this pandemic is that it is also important for the parent to be a role model on how they're handling anxiety and stress. Children are going to mirror a lot of what they see their parents do. So if their parents are walking around very anxious and stressed and frightened and thinking that it's a catastrophe and everyone's going to fall sick and all of that, the child may take on a lot of that anxiety. I see that a lot. So one of the things a parent can do is take care of themselves. Like being a good parent also involves taking care of yourself and making sure that you're grounded and centered and that you're taking the appropriate precautions without letting your anxiety run wild. So that's the first thing. Secondly, you don't want to be unrealistic with the child. You want to be realistic with them, but you don't want to cause them to have excessive fear that's incapacitating. So validating their feelings and letting them know that you understand how they feel and that adults are around them to try and protect them and to keep everybody safe, and that we're all in this together to promote health and keep each other healthy. So kind of giving them that reassurance and validation is very helpful. Keeping them physically active is very important, because one of the ways to decrease anxiety in children and adults is physical exercise. So whether that's done mostly inside because you live in an urban environment where it's hard to practice physical distancing, or taking a walk outside or doing some physical activity outside, that can be really beneficial in helping a child deal with anxiety. Also, maintaining some structure. If you look in the field of disaster psychiatry, which I have familiarity with, one of the things that's important to do when a natural disaster happens or an epidemic or pandemic is that you have to continue some sort of structure so that the child feels that there is some sense of control, there is some sense of mastery of what their day looks like. And children benefit from some degree of structure and routine. So trying to model that a little bit, easier said than done, but that can help a child reduce their stress.
So I'm curious, do different age groups of children exhibit different kind of signs?
Yes, absolutely. With younger children, they can't express themselves as well. They can't talk about their feelings in a way that older children or adults can do. So instead of saying, I'm scared, I'm fearful, or I'm afraid something's bad's going to happen, instead they may complain of headaches, of stomach aches. They may not want to separate from their parent. They may exert more physical signs than emotional signs. They may tantrum, they may be really irritable, they may get frustrated quickly. So those are things that you see in younger children. In older children, they may be able to express themselves a little bit better and use words like, I'm scared. What if something happens to my parents? What if something happens to my other family members? Who's going to take care of me? Who's going to take care of my siblings? So an older child may be able to verbalize those things a little better. And even more so as they get later on in adolescence, they may be able to talk about their fears about the future, about going to college, about whether they're going to be able to get jobs, what this means for them, for their future. So it's important to kind of meet them where they're at and have honest, open communication with them to discuss their concerns and their fears.
So what are some basic coping skills that you recommend for parents and the children to adopt during this confusing and uncertain time?
Yes. So during a time of quarantine, I've actually heard various responses. Some families are really finding it to be a very valuable bonding experience because they're not running around going to this activity and that activity. They're instead having to have meals together, cook together, find activities to do together. So that actually can be a very good thing because it improves the bonding and it improves the chance of open communication. For a lot of families, though, there's a lot of tension and stress around always being together, not having their child have somewhere else to go or somewhere else to be. So that can actually increase conflict. So one of the things to know is when, as an adult or a child, you need to take some space. And that may mean going to another room, stepping outside, taking some deep breaths, even listening to some headphones, some calming music. Those things can be very restorative and give you a minute to yourself. We know that ancient Hindu practices such as yoga and meditation have a lot of scientific research now behind it. So it's using those tools that have been in our culture for centuries can really help during this pandemic to decrease our anxiety. Doing some meditation, mindfulness, yoga practices at home can all be very grounding and centering for the entire family.
Well, this is some very, very valuable information for all of us. Dr. Anandis, thank you so much for taking the time out. And where can we reach you and where can people reach you? Are you still practicing right now?
Yes, I actually wear a few different hats. I'm a staff psychiatrist for a nonprofit agency called Masada Homes. I also have a small private practice, and I do some telemedicine work as well. And on the side, I like to help educate the public with some medical journalistic endeavors. I have a website. It's www.dranandi.com, and my Twitter handle is Dr. Anandi. We spell out the word Dr. Anandi.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Anandi, for taking the time out of your very busy schedule, as I can see, and we look forward to speaking to you again very, very soon.
Thank you.